Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check out today's episode. And guys, today I sort of want to have a comprehensive discussion on current and how current affects bass biting, not biting, their position and that type of stuff. This is something that a lot of people equate current as, like, you know, if you're fishing a river or something like that, or some, you know, river type lake that has a significant amount of current coming through it, like the TVA lakes. But every single lake in the country, I don't care where it's at, even if it's a natural body of water, it has current in it to some extent, because even in a body of water that doesn't have water moving through the system on its own, wind creates current. So it's a factor in every lake. So we're going to get into that in today's video. Also, guys, thank you very much. Just a big thank you to everybody that's taken time to hit that subscribe button here to the Fishing Teacher. Really appreciate that. And also, guys, I just wanted to make you aware of the current Labor Day sale going on at Tackle Warehouse. A bunch of good deals on tackle. I'll have my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video if you guys would like to take advantage of some of those sales there. Really appreciate that. Okay, this is sort of like a complex question or complex discussion. We could talk for hours about this, but I want to give you guys some good, just real world foundational advice on dealing with current and what you need to think about it, what you need to remember about it. First of all, current affects every system differently, and it affects the bass differently based upon the intensity of the current or how swift the current is. Lakes that I've fished across the country, I've had minimal amount of current, like just wind generated current. And then I fish some bodies of water that have like a 4 or 5 mile an hour current just ripping through there, and everything sort of in between with that. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, all different types of current and how it affects bass. Okay, first of all, if you're in heavy current, like current that is moving, like some type of a river water type current, fish have got to have some type of an object to really break that current to some extent. Not as much as what a lot of people think. Some people think that bass are victims of the current, and they're not, because I've caught a lot of bass on the up current side of objects as well as the down current side, because what happens is you don't really know where the current breaks are underneath the water. Say, for example, if you have a current moving down a lake or river system like that, you've got a lay down tree in the water and you can see the current swirling around it. All you're seeing is what's on the surface there. You don't know what's underneath. There could be like a big root wad 5 feet underwater that you don't know is down there that's creating some type of a current break, or a rock or something like that. So given that, you don't really know precisely where to cast at. You sort of have to cast everywhere. But the main thing on heavy current situation is look for those eddy type areas. That's going to be a big factor with that. So anything that breaks the current, it could be, you know, a bend in the channel of the river. It could be some type of a hard object. It could be an undercut bank. There's a lot of different things that could break the current, and try to concentrate around those type of areas. Another thing on lakes that have heavy current on it, your bottom bouncing lures are going to be a lot better. So your jigs and your your jigs and your Texas rig type baits are going to be your primary technique for that. Primarily jigs. Almost every lake I fish that has a strong current on it, there's a good jig bite. A strong current, you're not going to catch that many on a moving type bait. You're going to have to get down there on the bottom, and like I said, jigs and Texas rig plastics are a good way to do it. Now, some type of a moderate current, let's say that you have a moderate current of a couple miles an hour, where you can see leaves drifting down the water, but there's not like, it's not hard to hold your boat. It's like you can work into the current fairly easily, a lot more easily than if you were in a strong current. If you're in a situation like that, current breaks are still going to be, you know, a good place to fish, but they're not going to be completely necessary, depending upon the intensity of that current. A moderate current can be a light moderate, a moderate, or a heavy moderate. So the more moderate a current is, the more that a fish can be around any type of cover. In other words, like it could be down, a straight rocky bank that has a moderate current, you might catch one anywhere on it. Or, you know, a lay down tree, you might catch one on what you perceive as the upside current. So this makes it a lot more diverse as far as where those fish can live at and the techniques available. On a moderate current like that, you can catch them on a more diverse, type of baits. You can catch them on, crankbaits. You can catch them on chatterbaits, spinner baits, just about anything, moving baits and slow baits. And for the most part, some type of a moderate current is something that you're going to experience on man-made lakes where they're pulling or they're drawing water. The other type of a situation where I was talking about heavy current, that's usually going to be experienced like on the upper river extremities of a lake that is a river / lake. So say, for example, you guys that fish Neely Henry Lake in Alabama or Logan Martin Lake in Alabama, run way up the river below the tail race, heavy current. Same type of a lake, you come down the lake, midway down the lake, and you may have the moderate current. Also, as the moderate current takes place over the heavy current, you're going to also have bass move deeper. On a heavy current lake, you're not going to have many bass deep. They're going to be, most of those fish are going to be shallow, 5 feet or less. But if you have a moderate current, those fish can be on ledges or humps or drop-offs down to 20 feet or something, depending upon the water clarity. Now, on bodies of water that don't have much natural current, but it's a wind-generated current, it's really irrelevant as far as the current affecting the bass, as far as positioning those fish and the technique available. In general, it just makes the fish more active. So you can pretty much fish the same way you've always fished. Just take advantage of that current and the wind. That's another reason why bass usually bite better if the wind's blowing a little bit, is it creates that natural current. Bass usually always are more active in some type of a current situation. It's like if they're pulling water on a man-made impoundment, it activates the food chain overall, makes it a little bit more active. And on vice versa, if they're not pulling much current, it can be pretty tough there. So anyway, guys, that's just a few, off the wall tips there about current. Hope it helps you guys out. We'll check in later.